It's really a lovely morning. I don't know why you are sitting in a tent, hot tent. There are several things that we ought to talk over together. Though we have discussed many things, many human problems, and it's better to go beyond all those problems to be free. But I would like this morning, if I may, go into rather perhaps complex problems, complex issues. And I think they should be talked over together. Perhaps some of you are here for the first time. So, if I may point out, this is not a lecture where you listen, agreeing or disagreeing, or put to sleep by the words, however eloquent they may be. But we are traveling together on a journey of a serious character. And unless one partakes in that journey, one shares and walks in that journey seriously, what we are saying will have little importance and very little effect. Not that one wants to make an effect. And one must understand together the nature of time. Because for us time is very important, both chronologically as well as psychologically. We are talking over together the psychological movement of time, not the time by the watch. The time by the watch is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you and I wouldn't be here at 10:30. Or if you want to catch a bus and so on and so on. Such time, chronological time, is necessary. But we are going to investigate together, and we mean together, what is psychological time upon which we depend so enormously. Surely time is movement. That's very simple. From here to there. Both chronologically as well as psychologically. A distance to be covered. A distance between what is and what should be. The distance to arrive at a goal, at a purpose, requires time. If one wants to learn a language, that requires time. So perhaps we have brought over from the learning something which requires time into the field of the psyche. You understand what I'm... See, we need time to learn any technique, to drive a car, to learn a language, to understand and work the electronics and so on. You need a great deal of time to fly an airplane. That same attitude has been brought over into the psychological field. We need time to be perfect. We need time to get over something. We need time to be free of our anxiety, to be free of our sorrow, to be free of our fear and so on. See what we have done. Where time is necessary, which is in the field of technology, that need has been introduced into the psychological world, and we have accepted it. For all nations to wipe away their nationalities needs time. To become brotherly, we need time. And so on, so on, so on. Now we are questioning that together. We are questioning whether there is any psychological time at all. Because psychological time implies hope. The world is mad. Let's hope in the future there will be a sane world. So we are questioning together whether there is an action which is not involved in time at all. We are meeting together. Action brought about by a cause, by a motive, needs time. Right? Action which has a pattern of memory, and to put that pattern into action needs time. If you have an ideal, however noble, however beautiful, romantic, and all the rest of it, however nonsensical even, it needs time to come to arrive at that idealistic state. So, to arrive at that, destroy the present. It doesn't matter what happens to you. What is important, the future. For the sake of the marvelous future, sacrifice yourself. And that future is established by the ideologists. Marx, Engels, all the rest of them. All the religious teachers and so on throughout the world. So we are questioning that. Whether there is any psychological time at all. And therefore, please go into this very carefully. No hope. Dante, his Inferno said, leave those who enter here have no hope, all that. We are questioning this. This is a very serious thing, please. Don't come to any conclusion yet. What shall I do if I have no hope? Hope is so important because that gives you satisfaction, energy, drive to achieve something. Now when you look closely, non-sentimentally, logically, is there psychological time at all? There is psychological time only when you move away from what is. Right, you are getting this? That is, there is psychological time when one realizes one is violent and one proceeds to inquire how to be free of it. That movement away from what is time. But if you are, after investigation and so on, if one is totally, completely aware of what is, then there is no time. I wonder if you see this. Do you? Look, most of us are violent. Violence is not only hitting somebody physically, anger, jealousy, acceptance of authority, conformity, imitation, accepting the edicts of another. All those are forms of violence. And human beings are violent. That is the fact. Violence. The very word condemns it. I don't know if you see it. The very usage of the word violence, by that usage you have already condemned violence. Right? See the intricacies of this. So, being violent and not being capable or negligent or lazy, we move away from it and invent ideological non-violence. That is time. The movement from what is to what should be. Right? Now that time comes to an end completely when there is only what is, which is non-verbal identification with what is. Get it, sir? I'm just finding it out. Come on. There is anger, right? Which is a form of violence or hatred, jealousy. The word anger, the word jealousy, hate, in themselves are condemnatory. When one sees one is angry, it says, I've been angry. That verbalization of a reaction strengthens the reaction. I wonder if you see that. Do you? I'm angry. When I say I'm angry, it is I have recognized from the past angers. So I'm using the word anger, which is the past, and identifying with that word the present. So the word becomes extraordinarily important. But if there is no usage of that word, but only the fact, the reaction, are you following this? Then there is no strengthening of that feeling. Where am I? So, we are saying that it is possible to live psychologically without tomorrow. You understand? I love you, I shall meet you tomorrow. Which is the remembrance of that affection or whatever it is in memory and projected tomorrow. See the importance of all this, sir. So that there is an activity without time at all. Love is not time, right? Love is not a remembrance. If it is not love, obviously. I loved you because you gave me sex, or you gave me food, or you flattered me, or you said, I need companion, I'm lonely, therefore I need you. All that's not love, surely. When you are jealous, when there is anxiety, hatred, that's not love. So, then what is love? Love is obviously a state of mind in which there is no verbalization, no remembrance, but an immediate fact. So it is possible, through very careful examination, observing, which is totally different from analysis. We went into that, there's no time now. My goodness, there's so much to talk about. So there's a way of living in daily life where time as movement from this to that has gone. Do you know what that means? What happens when you do that? You have an extraordinary vitality, extraordinary sense of clarity. You are then only dealing with facts, not with ideas. But as most of us are imprisoned in ideas, and we have accepted that as the way of life, it's very difficult to break away from that. But to have an insight into it, then it's finished. Right? Then there is a question of space. I think this very, if one may point out, it's very important to understand this. When we talk about space, we conceive space or look at space from an object, right? Right? But to observe space or to be aware of space without the object, and therefore without the subject. You understand this? Oh, Lordy. Because please look at it, let's go slowly into this. Because our minds are so cluttered up with knowledge, with worries, with problems, with money, with position, prestige, so burdened. There is no space at all. Right? And without space, there is no order. Right? And we are asking, what is space? Space we know from, look, we are sitting here and we know the space of the tent. From a center, observe without the center. Which means to observe without the center implies non-verbalization. This becomes too difficult for all of you. Huh? May I go on? You are sure? Space implies no direction. Right? When I look at this valley from a height, and if there is a direction which I want to see where I live, then I lose the vast space. Just see the sanity of it. So where there is direction, there is no space. Where there is a purpose, a goal, something to be achieved, there is no space. Right? Right? No, look at it, sir. Don't agree. Look at yourself. If I have a purpose in life and for which I am living, concentrating, where is the space? I have very little space. Whereas if there is no direction, there is vast space. You look at it, go into it, you will see it yourself. So, where there is an object, a center, and from that center we look, then space is very, very, very limited. When there is no center, no object, no structure of the me put together by thought, there is vast space. And without space, as we said, there is no order, there is no clarity, there is no compassion. Because we live in a very, our lives are very limited, enclosed, and to break that enclosure, we do all kinds of things. So where there is resistance, there is no space. Right? Where there is a center from which you are acting, there is no space. Where there is a direction, a motive, an end in view, there is no space. But space is necessary. Space is necessary because the word because implies cause. Remove it. It is necessary to have space. When there is space, you can observe very clearly. When at the top of a mountain, on a clear day, you see everything. The beauty of the whole valley, the mountains, the clarity, the valley. But our minds are so heavily conditioned, so heavily burdened, there is no space. Now, to have an insight into it, right? To see how important it is to have space. So then next thing is, what is it? Space. Huh? Space. One wonders what is space. Do you ever wonder what is space? Not some science writer about space, or who has intellectually thought out and laid down in ideas, in words, what space is. But what is space? Can there be space without order? Do you understand? Can there be space in disorder? All right, let's begin with this. We are inquiring together. Please bear with me if I repeat it over and over again, that we are examining, moving, sharing this thing together. We're asking, is there space when there is disorder in a room? Just take the physical fact. When you throw all your clothes all over the place and, messy, is there space? And that space can only come when you have put everything in its right place. Right? So, outwardly. Now, inwardly, our minds are so confused. Our whole life is self-contradiction, disorder, caught in various habits: drugs, smoke, drink, sex, habits. Obviously, where there is a habit, there is disorder. Because habit is mechanical. So, we're going to find out what is order. Is order something dictated by thought? Because thought itself is a movement of disorder, because it's limited. Right? I wonder if you see this. We think we can bring about order socially by great careful thought, which is the ideological movement, right? Our society, whether in the West or in the East, is in disorder, is confused, is contradictory. You sell arms to some people and then hope to have for peace. It's also totally mad, the world is. And we're also mad somewhat. Because the world is mad because we have made it mad. So, what is disorder and what is order? We are saying disorder comes outwardly when thought is in movement, in action, thought which is limited, fragmentary, and divides whole of life into fragments. You have seen that. Thought does this. Are you aware of this? Please come on, T. That is, you are a businessman, then if you are not a businessman, you are an artist. If you are not an artist, you are a doctor, a professor, or merely a gardener. Follow? All our life is divided. That is disorder. Where there is division, there is disorder. And thought has brought about this division, right? Class, nationality, heaven and hell, all the rest of thought has done this. So, where there is movement of thought, which is time-binding, which is fragmentary in itself, therefore limited in itself, wherever it acts, there must be total disorder. I wonder if you see this. Now, don't agree with me, please. This is not a question of agreeing with me. Do you see this in your life? So, if that is true, then what is order in relation to action? You understand? All our action now is based on thought, on conclusions, on memory, And we are saying, as long as thought, which is limited, which has created an ideology and act according to that ideology, there must be total disorder. We are saying that, which is a fact, if you observe in daily life. Then, what is action in which there is no movement of thought? You understand? I wonder, is this all becoming too abstract? It's not. To me, it's boiling. It's not an abstraction, not intellectual amusement either. Is there an action which is not born out of the movement of thought, out of certain ideologies which have been put together by thought, or by memories, which again is the response of thought? Is there an action totally free from thought? Such action then will be complete, whole, total. You understand? Not fragmentary, not contradictory. It will be the whole of action in which there is no regret, no sense of, I wish I hadn't done that, or I will do that. Right? This is what we are inquiring. Disorder comes about when there is the movement of thought. And thought itself is fragmentary. And when it acts, everything must be fragmentary. If one sees that very clearly, then one asks, what is action without thought? Action means the doing now, not tomorrow or having done, doesn't it? The meaning of that word is active, present, acting, now. And, as we said, love is not of time, right? Compassion is beyond the intellect, beyond memory. It is a state of mind. And that love, that compassion acts because that compassion, love is supremely intelligent. So intelligent then acts. You get, are you getting some of this? Or just words? So, we can go into this enormously, you don't know. It's like digging into the bottomless pit, and there's water always. So you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. That's irrelevant. So then we are saying, where order is space, this kind of order, which is action of intelligence, which is neither yours nor mine, which is intelligence, born out of love and compassion. Now, space implies a mind that is not occupied. But our minds are occupied all day long about something or other. So there is no space or an interval between two thoughts. Every thought is associated with another thought. Look at it, please look at it, so that there is no gap. When your whole mind is crowded, chattering, opinions, judgments, right, wrong, good, I'm a rightist, I'm a leftist, I'm this, So order of the kind we have talked about brings enormous space. Space means silence. Right? And silence, which comes, or out of silence comes this extraordinary sense of emptiness. And don't be frightened by that word empty. Because when there is emptiness, then things can happen. You understand? Like a womb of a woman who bears a child is empty. Do you understand all this? Would you please speak further on time, measure, and space? I hope you aren't tired of it. No, please, don't be polite. It doesn't matter. If you are tired, just quietly listen. As most of us are tired, our brains have become exhausted, right? By the usual repetition, going to the office, seeking pleasure, resisting conflict. Our brains, please realize they are tired brains. If they weren't tired, you wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here either. But we are tired human beings because we are frightened. There is terror. There is danger in the streets. Financial uncertainty. War, atom bomb. We are really extraordinarily exhausted human beings. Through drink, drugs, overindulgence in every form. And we are going to talk about something that requires a great deal of penetration, a great deal of attention. And to go into it very deeply, you have also to relax, to be free, to look, to penetrate, however much one may be tired. Would you please speak further on time, measure, space, and thought? This is important to understand because man has always asked, the serious ones, whether time has a stop. Whether man can ever be free from the limited space he lives in, not only physically. The physical space is becoming narrower and narrower because of overpopulation. Cities, we seem to live in flats, drawers that you pull out and pull back. You understand? Push back. Space physically is becoming very small. And perhaps that's one of the reasons why there is violence in the world. Because we have no space. That's why big cities like New York, London, Paris, they breed violence. They're all too close together. This is one of the facts which have been investigated. They have put many rats in a small space. And these rats become totally disoriented. They eat their own children, they kill each other, exactly as we are doing, because they have no space, physical. So this is a question that one must go into very, very seriously if you are interested. Measure. There are three things: time, measure, space. What is time? What is space? What is measure? We are going to inquire into that. Time, measure, space. And as we said, some of the writers have asked this question, whether time has a stop. Because psychological time we are talking about, not the chronological time by the watch, or you can't stop the sun from setting, rising. But we are talking about time as a movement of becoming, or being, or climbing, or expanding, right? Time, which is part of evolution. The psychological evolution, the biological evolution has almost come to an end for man, right? Obviously. He is not going to develop a fourth arm or third arm or something or other. So, we are talking about psychological time, the time as hope, as something that has happened yesterday or last year, and that memory of it is time. The repetition of it is time. The endeavor to escape from it is time. You following on? To suppress it, to do something about it. All that involves time. And where are the people ask, not only the writers, the scholars who have written volumes about time and all the rest of it, and also the ancient Hindus have asked this question, whether time has a stop so that a new movement can take place. Not imaginary, not fanciful, not romantic, all that kind of stuff, but actually psychological time coming to an end. Right? That's one question. The other is measure. The whole technological world is based on measurement. If you had no measurement, there would be no technology. Right? Measurement, according to a ruler, or measurement by thought, and so on. Measurement. This measurement has become necessary to build an airplane, even to have this tech. And this measurement has been handed down to the Western world through the Greeks. I'm not a Greek scholar, but you can observe this. It's been the Greeks that were concerned, the ancient Greeks, were concerned with measurement. They were the originator of mathematics, so on, part of mathematics, and so on. So, Western world has inherited measurement. Measurement not only technologically, measurement comparing one painter against another painter, one poet against another poet, one sculptor, Mr. Moore, against the other, right? Measurement. And also in ourselves there is measurement. I am not as good as I should be. The better, the more. Right? Psychologically as well as physically. More money, more power, more fun, all that. If I have more money, more power, I have more fun. That's part of measurement. And we are always comparing, psychologically. There is the great teacher, and I am not. I compare myself, and eventually I'm going to get where he is. And also, space. Psychologically, as well as physically, we have very, very little space. Especially if you observe this, when you go into crowded towns, cities, and in overpopulated countries like India, enormous crowds. You have no concept of it. And naturally, they live in narrow streets, live in small houses, physically. You know, naturally, there's always a battle going on for space, physical space. For God's sake, move over into that corner. Don't crowd me. And also psychologically, that is, in consciousness, we have very little space. It's crowded. Right? It's crowded with our knowledge, crowded with our fears, anxieties, despair, depressions, seeking happiness, seeking illumination, seeking the powers of Kundalini. Follow? Occupied. Wanting more. Better understanding, greater power. I'll fast. I'll have more energy, fasting. Physically, it is, you follow? Always occupied. And therefore, there is very little space. If you observe, your consciousness is filled. And therefore, there is no space. And then, realizing no space, you begin to inquire into the space of the universe. Astrophysicists are doing this. That extraordinary world of cosmos, which is essentially order. Cosmos in Greek means order. The scientist whose brain is limited because of his knowledge, because of his conditioning with his relationship with another, his drink, his desire for more power, more money, more status, more publicity, you follow? And that little brain is inquiring into something immeasurable and translating what they see through telescopes into mathematical problems. I've answered the last question, sir, sorry. So, if you observe, we have no time, there is no sense of stopping time, psychologically. There is no ending of measurement. Right? We're always measuring, always looking to the future. better government, better economic position. United Nations will eventually, you follow? The very idea, United Nations, think of this. Tribalism uniting, how can they? Don't. So, knowing all this, we're asking whether time, measurement have a stop. That is essentially, is there a stop to thinking? You understand? Because time is thought. Time is movement. Today, tomorrow, yesterday, time is movement. And time is also chronological, it's movement. Thought is a movement, right? So, thought is the movement of time. Thought is time. And we are asking, is there a stop to time and to thought? Or is man everlastingly condemned to this movement, which is hell? You understand? Hell, forget that word. It's a Christian word. They have also their own particular word in Asia. And we're saying also measurement. In a part of meditation, the word meditation also means to measure. In Sanskrit also, ma is to measure. You understand? Meditation is measurement, the word. And the Sanskrit word also means measurement. And we are conditioned to measurement. Measurement is I am, I shall be. The ideal and the pursuit of the ideal. How near, closely I'm approaching the ideal. I am violent and I must not be violent, which is a measurement. So measurement, psychologically as well as physically, is a movement of time thought. Right? And space. As our brain's mind consciousness is crowded, there is not a spot which is not covered. I don't know if you have noticed it. You may think that there is a space that is not covered, but when you think that is not covered, that very thought is covered. You understand? Are you following this? When I think there is in me a field or a state which is immeasurable, which has immense space, which has no time. When I think about it, it is the product or the invention of thought. Right? Therefore, it's part of thinking, part of measurement. Therefore, the concept of super ego is still part of that thought. So, this is our problem. Whether time, thought has come to an end, which is measurement, and can they have space, infinite space, not the space invented by thought, is this possible? It is possible only when you see the truth or the falseness of measurement psychologically, imitating, conforming, all that. When you see the absurdity, the unintelligent way we live, and see where thought, which is time, is necessary to learn a language, and psychologically it has no place. When you see the truth of it, right? Then consciousness, though it's crowded and beginning to dissipate, when you see that, the truth of that, then there is space. It's not that what you do to end time, what you do to measurement, say I must stop measuring, but seeing the truth of it will set the brain free will bring freedom to the brain. Because then you have space that is literally immeasurable. And it is only then that the apprehension or the perception, which is not personal, of that which is everlasting from everlasting,